The other thing that I just want to quickly talk about is the guidance, because I think if you understand the guidance in the context of all this HHSRS stuff, then you will feel emboldened, I hope, because the law is on your side. So the guidance, the way this works is that obviously HMRC are very clear about their guidance in most cases. And in this case, what they say down here is this. And I'm just going to go kind of word for word. Well, I talked about it earlier, but now just to circle back. So there are hazards. We've seen lots of those. And a local authority would cause a local authority. Now, this is the key word, cause. It's not saying that a local authority would. But imagine you've got a house like some of the properties we've seen. Would a local authority issue a prohibition notice on that property because of the condition hazards present? Yes, they would. They wouldn't want to, but technically they could. And so if you have those issues, then you've got hazards present that would cause a local authority to issue a prohibition notice restricting use of the property. Fact. So that's why when you work through the lens of condition hazards, as opposed to general condition of property or whatever, then you're working within HMRC guidance. Does that help, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, that's quite tremendous. I was just thinking of a sort of a few other examples. So what I've seen is we've gone through a huge number of examples,
Yep.
and a lot of them, in fairness, as a property investor, especially a property investor who's looking to add value once they've purchased a property, these are things that we just see on a daily basis. So, you know, this is really very, very interesting. And I should imagine that, you know, a lot of people have varying ways that you can sort of reduce or negate stamp duty. But these are, you know, we're kind of always led to believe that, you know, not being habitable was something really, really like, you know, the bathroom ripped out, the kitchen ripped out, and, you know, a big hole in the roof. Whereas what we're saying here is, you know, obviously there are some buildings that are very extreme, but actually there can be some buildings that are rented out in an okay condition, but actually there's a few bits that when you look much deeper are really, you know, a major could potentially be a major hazard.
Yeah. So I think above all, this isn't about saving stamp duty. This is about the law giving you, this is about whether you overpaid stamp duty because you have a legitimate argument to say this property wasn't habitable at time of purchase. If you reduce your stamp duty liability, well done you, that's fine. But actually the essence of everything is to be correct about things. And so that's why when you're considering all this kind of stuff, it's just think about those condition hazards. So I'll take this property. This is a really good example of a typical £130,000 potential buy to let. And the first thing I would say, just bearing in mind, estate agency pictures always look nicer, don't they, than the reality?
Essentially, yes.
So my guess is that there are probably some roof issues here. There is general property neglect, obviously. I think there's some damp down there. It's not that easy to see, but I'll just show you. So this is the kind of stuff. So if you're thinking, if you've done your homework and you understand the legislation and you understand the property conditions that are present that could cause problems, then you will know what you're walking into by watching videos like this. And here I can see some damp issues down in that corner, which makes sense because that's usually where they occur. So the plaster is just not doing great down there. It's a bit damaged. The other thing I would say about this, as it appears, it's not perfect, but there's some more damp lurking there probably. And what I'm looking for are things like, for example, there's a plain door. That's not a fire door, I expect. And what else have I got? There was a couple of things that stood out to me on this one. So there's nothing absolutely stand out on this. That's right. In the loft, you've got some interesting issues. So obviously there's little signs of damp and what have you, but it's the staircase. This is a real hazard, and it so does not meet building regs. And also there's damp here. I don't see damp on the ceiling. There's also issues here, and that's probably symptomatic of damp in water ingress in the kitchen as well. But the agent isn't showing you that for various reasons. So yeah, this is the kind of property where odds are it's probably claimable once you paid the stamp duty. And the other thing just to say on this, should we can finish with screen share, can't we? And then kind of,
yeah.
How do we get back to you and me?
Yeah, I shall do that.
So I'll just go there. Right. To recap on the main things. Firstly, don't do abusive cases because it's not on and you'll get in trouble. If you have a case that has merit, well, you should know it by now because you've seen all these condition issues. Then yes, the law is on your side. Guidance is relatively clear, not abundantly
clear. Can I just
clear.
clarify that when you say don't do abusive cases? So, i.e., the facts are the facts. It either is hazardous or it is not. There's no point making it up, so to speak.
So let's take that cottage, that little terraced house. So there's nothing really serious going on with the real estate, with the estate agent pictures, but I'm sure with a bit of poking around, you would find a lot more to talk about. So imagine you did a case based on that. I think it's hard to argue. The place needs renovation, needs upgrading, but it's not in dire condition. It's just a modest house in well-worn condition. And if you said, oh, there's a damp patch in that tiny little corner there, and that's the justification for my case, well, yeah, the HMRC will pay that because they operate on a pay now, check later basis. And because they're under-resourced, they may not check and you may get away with it. But fundamentally, it's an abusive case. And just don't do that kind of thing, please. So you got that. But yeah, overall, as I said, there are probably about 30,000 of these claimable properties surfacing every year. And I think the other big thing is people listen to, or when they do a search for stamp duty reclaims, they see a lot of very negative commentary on the topic. And as somebody who's familiar with digital public relations, I know as a fact that it's designed to impart a certain message. But actually, once you work your way through all of the fear, uncertainty, doubt, and you look at the legislation, look at the case law, look at what's actually going on, not the hearsay, then you realize the law is on your side if you have an uninhabitable property at time of purchase.
So just to clarify once more, you talk about reclaim all the time.
Yes.
So are you suggesting that if you have a property that you're just purchasing,
yep,
that it's better to pay the stamp duty and then reclaim than the other way, than to upfront state that it's uninhabitable or has hazards?
If you avoid paying tax, that's kind of tax avoidance. And the issue with tax avoidance as a general topic is the legislation allows for a very open-ended situation with HMRC. In other words, they can cook up all sorts of allegations and trouble if you're avoiding tax. The question is whether this kind of merits, this would merit this level of interest from HMRC. There, arguably, it's better just to pay the stamp duty, because then you show good faith. I've paid it. Now I want this back because a mistake occurred, and I want to get that stamp duty back, and here's why. But if you are less risk averse, then, as some property developers are, property people are, and so on, then you could say to your conveyancing solicitor, place is a wreck, here's why, and self-assess as non-residential, please. And they'll fight about it. And then, as long as you're really explicit and there's a paper trail on the thing saying, look, I told you to do this, please do it, then they aren't in line for any question of bad practice. They wouldn't be subject to.
And that kind of, I suppose, goes back to when you talked about paperwork, you talked about those 3 different things to look out for, 3 different levels. And as long as you have, the surveys, the pictures, all of those kind of things, then you could potentially do your self-assessment. But you feel overall it's safer, because that could be construed as avoiding tax. But if you pay it and then claim it back, then that looks much better. And is there a time scale on this?
Right. So just caveat to this is, if I go to you and say, look, you should do this, and then lots of people do it, then I'm promoting tax avoidance. And I don't do that, because I pay the correct tax, full stop. It's higher risk, and you have to be ready for a fight. And if you are, that's fine. In situations where we're talking quite substantial amounts of money, then there's the resource to hire a tax barrister and to go and fight it out in the first tier tax tribunal. But that's a totally different level to just some £130,000 semi-dilapidated buy-to-let somewhere. And if you just want a quiet life and essentially work by the well-understood rules, pay, reclaim. If you're punchy, if you've done your homework and you're streetwise on these things, then self-assess as non-residential. Make sure you get an HHSRS inspection done so that you've got evidence. Make sure that you've got your case argument sorted out and you're ready to go. And then if they inquire, they've got 9 months in which to do so. After 9 months, you're basically clear. But remember, tax avoidance has, I think it's 6 years that they can inquire within 6 years. And for widespread abuse of tax avoidance, I think it's even up to 20. But we're not talking about that. It's a stamp duty matter. It's typically 9 months. That's that.
Well, let's say we purchased, we paid the stamp duty, you've got everything ready, because obviously you've just bought the property, so you've got all the pictures, they're all fresh. Do you immediately do it, or is there
yeah.
So you can immediately do it, and how quickly can you get it back? So obviously for us as property investors, there's some cash flow things, and obviously if you've paid a big chunk of stamp duty, you clearly have bought a property that needs a lot of work doing.
Yes.
Can we rely on that money? As you've said, it's returned.
Yeah, well, now you're drifting into an interesting one, which is that if you don't do your budgeting right, and you don't assume, if you're relying on that stamp duty money for some reason, well, you're in the wrong kind of place with all of this. So really, if you're going to do it right, you get your reclaim, you put the money on ice for 9 months, and once that's over, 9 months from the date of the reclaim, by the way, once it's over, and you can do what you like with that money. It's for you really to put all the the dots together, as it were. I've done my best to do paint by numbers. The bottom line is you do what's within the law. You follow your rights within the law, and now you've seen how to do it. And it's quite helpful sometimes to have people like us, me and Emma, to help decode this for you.
Amazing. Well, look, we are just over time, but this has been really tremendous. It's been very, certainly very eye-opening for myself at this property that I'm purchasing, and also thinking about others as well. So yeah, it's tremendously interesting. So just as a reminder, if people are interested in this, they can obviously contact me and yourself. What is the best course of action?
Right. If you're, I suppose, easiest is to, if you want to talk to somebody that's accessible, because I'm not, especially because I'm very busy these days, then easiest is go talk to Emma. She knows her way around this stuff. And if she thinks you got a viable reclaim or whatever, then it just helps all of us, because then it's all a bit more pre-processed, and that would help. So probably, yeah, talk to you, Emma. Sorry to say. Go to the website, do all of that. But if you know, you're here because you like Emma and you follow her, and I like her and I follow her, and she does know what she's talking about. So try that. If it's a really complex question or whatever, then maybe try me. There we are.
Fantastic. So just a reminder, your website, all of those details as well.
Yes, Stamp Duty Advice Bureau. Advice Bureau, like citizens' advice, like we're here to help. There's so much information on the website. We are, I've actually written 2 books on stamp duty. One is just too big. It's about 1,000 pages. It's a bit embarrassing, really, but it's been a mission. And the reason I've done all this, by the way, is to understand the topic in detail, because the more I understand it, the more good outcomes occur. So got that, and then I've just written the essential land tax guide, which is just an abbreviated version of the big book. It's about 160 pages, and it just goes through the essentials. It'll give you general bearings. So these books are going to be published fairly shortly, and excerpts are already going on the website. So the Stamp Duty Advice Bureau have got Veronica putting all that stuff up on the site. So I want to open source this as much as I can.
Amazing. Well, Nick, that has been a tremendous session. Really appreciate that. So, guys, if anyone has missed the first interview that I did with Nick, where we really went into absolute detail around, the whole background of stamp duty and real intricate details, then please go and listen to that one. And then this one, as you can see, has been a very practical look at what exactly it is when you go into a property and you look at a wall and there's maybe damp, there's maybe cracks, there's maybe various issues. So it's been really, really great for me. I've really, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much, Nick. Really appreciate that. And both of us will be shortening this off as well, so we can have some sound bites. And then also, I always forget to say this, but I've remembered now, if you've enjoyed the content, then please do subscribe. I do regular content weekly, generally outside of school holidays. So please do subscribe so you keep up to date with everything that I do. So again, thank you so much, Nick. And look forward to catching up very soon. Thank you.